Hello, and a warm welcome to our show, Love Athletics. In this program, we bring you the latest highlights from our sport with expert input from different continental areas. And we're delighted to have with us today US journalist Weldon Johnson, co-founder of Let'sRun.com. Hi, Weldon. Lovely to see you again, and a big thank you for joining us.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
So, Weldon, after the great results by US athletes at the Olympic Games, I was really looking forward to chatting with you about it, and even more so this year, because the whole winter season, but especially the last month, has been truly exceptional with a flurry of world records, including several by US athletes who then continued to shine over the last fortnight. But first of all, let's start with a flashback to 2024. Pretty obvious question, Weldon, but what was your favorite moment from the Paris Olympic Games?
Oh, this is easy answer for a U.S. distance fan. The men's 1,500 meter final. This was the most hyped on Let's Run all year to begin with. People loved Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He's sort of a transformational athlete. And then if you told me beforehand the Americans are going to go 1:35 in the 1,500 meters and Jakob's going to be off the podium, no one would have believed it. But Cole Hawker, Olympic champion, it doesn't get any better for, right there on the screen than that. So, I mean, an amazing race. It was so hyped beforehand and it exceeded expectations. I think American fans thought Cole Hawker, people were debating on Let's Run. Is there a scenario where he wins this race? And there was, but all four of those guys brought it. I mean, I think they all four broke the previous Olympic record. It was just an amazing race.
It definitely was. And I remember when Cole Hawker won, I was like, hey, Let'sRun.com has been saying for a couple of years now that this guy is the next big thing. So there you go.
Yeah, some guy in our forums started a thread a couple months in summer, and he said, does Cole Hawker have the best kick in the world? And he had never kicked in a 3:27 race, but he did it in these other races, like 3:31 races, and he's like, this kick is unbelievable. And he showed he could do it at that level as well. So I'm already looking forward to Tokyo.
Definitely. And I like the fact that Cole stayed on in Europe after the games, and he got some Diamond League races in. So I think that's also good. And it was good to get to know him.
Yeah, like he really hadn't raced much in Europe. And he raced Jakob like right after the Olympics, I think the first Diamond League. Yeah. And I think Jakob appreciated that. Cole sort of, I'm calling Jakob the king. He still sort of kind of acknowledged the king. But it's going to be a great rivalry this year.
Definitely. And well done. Let's move to 2025. So what was your favorite athletic moment so far this year?
It's probably more a collective whole. If you told me the Americans would have broken the world records, just the men, at the mile, 3K, 5K, and have the number 2 time ever at 800, I'd have been like what? Like, is this 1910 or something? Like, how is this possible? But yeah, it's been fabulous. I mean, Grant Fisher's record in the 3K was probably the most surprising, and Cole Hawker was right behind him. And then, yeah, there it is. And then same meet at the Milrose Games, which was phenomenal. Yard Nagus broke the mile record, which Jakob then rightfully went and got back and leave in. And then Grant the next week came out and got the 5K record at Boston. So the 5K record was very soft, as was the mile record, but the 3K record was really good. Yeah. And then you have Josh Hoey running that, only Wilson Kipketer's faster than him at 800 meters. So it's just been an amazing indoor season for the American men. I mean, we put more of an emphasis on indoors here, and the tracks are really fast now in the shoes, but it's still great year for American men. I mean, the best one ever, obviously, indoors.
Yeah, no, definitely very, very impressive year. That is going to be one of the huge discussion topics up for, for the summer season coming up soon. But let's go back to the to what's happening now and what happened over the last fortnight. U.S. Indoor Championships on 22 and 23 February. There were really two remarkable results in New York. Day one, best performance from Grant Holloway. I mean, he's equaled his recent world lead with 7:36, but especially he extended his win streak over the hurdles in indoor events to 76 races, starting back in 2015. Now that's truly amazing. But even more impressive is an athlete that you've just mentioned, and that's Josh Hoey, who continued his standout season 143.24 victory ahead of Brandon Miller with 144.26. And that mark was not only the US and NACAC record, but as you pointed out, it's the second best ever behind Wilson Kipketer's 142.67 world record, which was set way back in 1997. So that was really huge. And actually, we'll talk about this later, but Hoey seems to be one of the very few US athletes who will be competing at the World Indoors in Nanjing. Guess because he missed a couple chances to make the team earlier, so he's really anxious. But first of all, I must admit, Weldon, that I hadn't really noticed Josh Hoey until this winter. So what can you tell us about him?
Oh, he would have been easy to miss. He was a high school phenom. Back in 2018, he ran 147 indoors, which was the American record indoors for a high schooler. He signed a pro contract with Adidas that year, and Adidas is sort of known for signing these high school kids to long-term deals. And then he literally did nothing until last year. He was running 147 pretty much every year, never getting faster. I think in 2023, he didn't even get into the 147s. He ran 148. He tried a bunch of kind of prominent coaches, Terrence Mahan, some other coaches in America. And then he switched to an Australian, Justin Rinaldi, who was Peter Bull's coach. Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing. It's one of the great things about running is like it's so international. And I think they've seen each other like maybe once, started working remotely, and the results are phenomenal. He almost made the U.S. Olympic team last year. He was fourth at the trials. Started running, running 145s, that sort of stuff, 144s. And so he was, and by the end of the year, he ran 143 last year outdoors. And then indoors, he's picked up where he left off and exceeded it. First race was the American record at 1,000 indoors. Yeah. Then he beat Grant Fisher in a 1,500 at the New Balance Boston meet. Then he broke the American record at the Millrose Games, and then he broke it again with the 143 at U.S. Indoors. It's like dreams become reality. That's our slogan on Let's Run. So he's the real deal. It's pretty amazing that a guy could struggle like that for 6 years. I mean, I remember thinking Adidas wasted their money on this guy, but they were in for the long haul.
Yeah, it's a good that they do make long-term plans, because somebody who was more short-sighted may have dropped him, and we wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing now, which is would have been a huge shame. So that was the U.S. Nationals, but on that same weekend, the best result did not come from the USATF indoors in New York, but it came once again from the super fast track at Boston University. So Cole Hawker on 21st February, they had stepped up to the 5,000 meters, and he won the race in 12:57.82, moving to number 15 in the all-time short track list, ahead of training partner Cooper Tier, 12:57.97. Behind the two Americans, two continental records were set. Australia's Jack Rayner took almost 5 seconds off the previous best, which had been set only last year by New Zealand's Geordie Beamish on the same track. And with 12:59.43, Rayner signed the best performance of his career and his second area record after the one he'd set over the 10,000 last March. And now this is really interesting because close behind Rayner, India's Gulveer Singh, a bronze medalist at the 2023 Asian Championships over 5,000 and Asian Games over 10,000, took over 8 seconds off the previous Asian record, also set at Boston University by Thailand's Kiran Tuntivate in 2022, bringing it to an excellent 12:59.77. Rayner's and Singh's performances place them respectively number 20 and 21 in the all-time list. Now, Weldon, I think it's really cool to see more countries worldwide reaching an outstanding level. And I'm particularly intrigued by India because that's something really new.
Yeah, it really is. Until you sent me kind of some show notes for the show, I was like, how did I miss that performance? A country with 1.5 billion people, and he's really made progress this year. It shows also people in the sport, they'll go everywhere. He knows, like Boston in the winter, that track, some people think it's faster than an outdoor track. I think he hasn't broken 13:10 outdoors. I think it just shows like how international the sport is. It's open to all, and it's great. I think also like, the Americans are running faster, the Indians are running faster. It's truly an international sport.
Yeah. And I mean, that day in Boston, it was clear that Cole wanted to chalk up a win because he hadn't particularly appreciated placing second to Grant Fisher the previous week at Milrose Games when Fisher set the world record. And he did run a great race, but then came the last chance indoor qualifier meet on 2nd of March, again on the BU track, and another superb performance by another US athlete, Nico Young. With a sizzling 12:51.56, the 22-year-old signed the third best track performance of the entire fortnight, climbing to number 5 in the all-time list. So that was really impressive. Now, Weldon, did you expect such a performance from Young?
To be honest, no. Maybe before the season, and in late November, we talked to him on our podcast, and we knew the American record at the time, which was 12:51, which is what he ran. We said, "Hey, is there any chance you target a fast time indoors?" And he said, "The American record is possible." But his indoor season started off pretty slow. He ran 7:41 for 3K, which used to be a really good time, but no longer is. That was only 2 weeks ago. And then I was like, how does he run 12:51 2 weeks later? But his coach, Mike Smith, told Let's Run's Jonathan Galt this week, Nico was like bitten by a dog on a run. I think at the start of the new year, and he missed 10 days of training. So maybe that explains why the first race wasn't that fast. But that's pretty. 12:51 missing training. I mean, that's even more impressive. So he's another name to watch. He was a high school phenom. He's one of the best junior under 20 American record holder at 5K. So made the Olympics last year, and I guess the question this year for him is can he step up, challenge for the medals like Grant Fisher last year?
Yeah, definitely. And he wasn't the only other U.S. distance runner because there were some more outstanding results. Graham Blanks, 2024 NCAA cross champion, ran an excellent 7:29.72 over 3,000 meters, well ahead of Uruguay's Valentin Soca, who finished a distant second in 7:34.10, but signed the South American record. Now, however, the best performance of that weekend came from Yared Nuguse, who tried but failed to regain his world indoor record, but ran an excellent 3:47.22 and clocked a 3:32.29 split over 1,500. So that was really, really great. And in the meantime, of course, here in the Netherlands, where I arrived this morning for the World Indoors, Jakob Ingebrigtsen tomorrow begins his quest to gain a third 1500 meter, 3000 meter double at the Euro Indoors. So, Weldon, this is really a fantastic battle between Jakob and the US runners, currently playing out long distance till they meet again in the summer.
Yeah, it's an amazing rivalry. I think on the distance side of thing, it's on the men's side, it's the thing people talk about. There's amazing performances on the track, and there's a little banter off the track. Josh Kerr is obviously in a lot of that banter as well, but it's just great. Even on the American side, like with Hobbs Kessler, who won the World Road Running Championships, he was 5th at the Olympics. Nagus was the bronze medal and Hawker the gold. With the U.S. trial system, I think there's a good chance one of them doesn't even make the team for Tokyo this year, because there's guys right behind them, trying to break through. So that battle is good. And then once they get to Tokyo, like what's going to happen? I think Jakob's going to try to maybe even perfect a strategy from last year and try to run it again from the front. I don't know. But that's what people always talk about, because he is the standard bearer in distance running right now. I think, even though he's lost the last 3 world championships in the 1500, his event, he sets the standard in that event and the 5K, and he determines how the race goes. So, what's his strategy going to be? And leading, we've seen it way back to El Garouche, everybody leading a 1500 championship race. It's very hard to do. So can he pull it off this year? I'm already excited to find out.
And I mean, setting that humongous world record in Lievan, coming straight from training, that was really something. I think he also had a point to make, is like, yes, records are being broken across the Atlantic, but guys, don't forget I'm still here.
Yeah, the fact he got the 1500 record en route was the most impressive thing to me.
Yes.
I knew that. I mean, Yomif Kajelcha had the mile record before Yar Nagus. And a shout out to him, because he had the mile record indoors and the half marathon record outdoors at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
He's now lost both of them by a lot, but that's amazing range. But so the mile record was a little bit soft, but the 1500, to get that en route, you have to go faster and then hold on and still break the mile record by over a second and a half. It was amazing by Jakob. So he sort of reminded everyone who's this boss in this event, at least outside of the championships.
Now, Weldon, let's go back to U.S. athletes and talk a little bit more in general about what's been happening with the U.S. distance running since the Paris medal bonanza, and of course, the double world record at Melrose Games. Now, do you think that these achievements helped other U.S. athletes believe that they could also excel on the world scene?
I mean, I think for sure the rising tide lifts all boats. If you want to be competitive, like essentially now the standard in a lot of these events is you need to be medaling or trying to win a gold medal at these championships. So I mean, one thing with the U.S. system, one, it's very competitive, but also like we always have a trials, top 3 make it. I think it's cutthroat, but also if one of other Americans doing something, you need to try to figure out a way to beat them. So, got younger guys like, Hobbs Kessler, see what the older guys are doing. Josh Hoey, the 800 internationally just took off last year. But he sees, what's going on in that event. He has to raise his game. So it's definitely, I mean, Nico Young sees what Grant Fisher does, and he's like, well, it's even just mentally, right? Like you see that, wait, this isn't impossible. Before, I think it's easy to think, oh, only guys from Kenya or Ethiopia are good at the 5,000 meters, right? When you see 8 guys in a diamond league, this is, 5 or 10 years ago, and they're all from mainly Kenya, then a few from Ethiopia. It's like, oh, well, maybe we're not good at this event. And now we're seeing, no, wait, like we can be good. And now there's an Indian guy breaking 13, and there is something to be said for, you got to put in the training, you got to do the work, but you got to believe it too. If you don't believe that something's going to happen, you'll never accomplish it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another thing that I really appreciate about the last weekend is something which had been missing so far, and that's a great result by a US female distance runner, Heather McLean, who clocked 4:17:01 over the mile. Now, she narrowly missed the US record over that distance, which belongs to Elle St. Pierre from last year for 16:41, but she did break the 1500-meter continental record with her split of 3:59:60. So that was good. Now, again, Weldon, McLean is an athlete that I had totally missed so far. So what can you tell us about Heather?
It's interesting because she made the U.S. Olympic team in 2021. So that's sort of that meet is so defining in the United States. So in my mind, also as competitive as we talked about, these events are pretty deep across the board in America now. If you make the Olympic team, you're a pretty good runner. But that was a huge surprise. In college, she ran at UMass Amherst. She was like never won the national championship, wasn't really close to winning one. She joined the New Balance Boston group, Mark Coogan's group. And honestly, I bet you they probably brought her in to be a training partner with people. You need numbers. You need people to train with. Ellie St. Pierre is in that group, and she was, had won an NCAA title. And it was, there, probably need a training partner for her. And then Heather sort of exceeded expectations. 2021 made the Olympic team. At that point, she hadn't broken 4 in the 15. Since then, she broke 4, but hadn't made a team since. Like, she's sort of had some injury stuff, but she ran pretty well last year after USA's. And I think this run shows she's healthy, number one. Number two, sort of the level she's at. Some of these indoor times are a little bit softer. But one thing we were wondering is like, wait, why where are the American women with these records?
Exactly.
Nikki Hiltz pulled off the 1500 3K double at USA's, and that was a great run. Shelby Houlihan's back from her doping ban, but you weren't seeing the records that you saw on the men's side. So it was good for Heather to get the record and also to get some attention for herself. St. Pierre's out; she's pregnant again, so maybe Heather can I think she is going to run the world. So that was why that was also one of the stated reasons for running this meet. So she should be a medal contender, I think, at Worlds, and maybe she can get some attention on herself.
That would be great. Now, another thing I'm really curious about, Weldon, is after all these amazing results at the Boston University facility, now it really seems that track is magical.
The physiotherapist or biomechanic guy, Jeff Burns, they've done studies on this. Yeah, the track is like, the angle is the perfect angle for the turns, especially for the mile. There's the way the boards are done. There's actually boards and there's some responsiveness. I mean, I think it's the fastest track in the world. I mean, the Millrose resurfaced their track this year, and we saw those world records there. So it would be interesting to compare those. But there is science supporting that this track may be faster than an outdoor track for the distance events. So it's kind of got the spring effect that people talk about with the super shoes these days. It's kind of built into this track more so than others. But I mean, it's not, we say that, Anna, but it's not like it's like 2% faster or 1% faster. It can make, I don't know how much of a difference, but even if it's a second, that's a huge difference, right?
Yeah. I remember there was an event last year where there was an impressive depth of athletes. It was a 5,000 meter race. And what was the stat now? Just, the depth shows that has a lot to do with the track, clearly.
Yeah, and now people are showing up to run. You mentioned Uruguay's Valentin Soca, who ran 7:34 this week. And that Grant Fisher race, he got lapped. He still ran like 13:10 12, I think, or something. It was like an amazing. This guy's the South American 3K record. But some of these guys, I'm like, what are they doing? Why are these guys even in the race?
Yeah.
And then I realized Grant was running so fast that they were still running really good times.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-mm.
They're going to start having races in the summer there, I bet. That's the new joke, that they're going to have races in July indoors. If you need a qualifier, I think that's the place to go, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. Right. So let's leave distance running now and look at the sprint scene. So sprints and field events had been relatively quiet this year, but that really changed over the last week with a series of great performance by college athletes taking part in their conference and gearing up for the NCAA indoors. Now, starting with the men, last Friday at the Southeastern Conference in College Station, Nigerian sprinter Israel Okon Sunday, who studies at Auburn University and only turns 19 in November, equaled the world under 20 record in the 60-meter heats with a mark of 6:51, which emulates the global mark set by Britain's Mark Lewis Francis at the World Indoors back in 2001. In the final, he took the win, but was a little bit slower with 6.55.
Yeah, these times are amazing. I mean, you're going to start seeing the way the college system changed a bit in the United States. This thing called name, image, likeness happened. Athletes essentially can get sponsorships. There's this court settlement with all the money from TV and American football. They may be able to start paying athletes directly in college, which they couldn't do. They also changed the rules so that foreign athletes could take. Before, if you were on a scholarship here, it's great. You get free education, but like there was no extra money to go home sometimes in the summer. Some of those rules have changed, and I think you're seeing more. I think you're going to see even more like Nigerian athletes everywhere. You're seeing a little more. You're going to see less American athletes given scholarships because there's going to be less scholarships overall. So internationally, if you can bring in a guy like this, who's going to break the world junior record, I think you're going to see more of this. And I have a Mark Lewis Francis story, Anna, if you want it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel bad. He's got a 4x1 gold medal, but he was sort of the phenom back in the day. And in 2002, I was seeing the same physio as Paula Radcliffe, Gerard Hartman, and this young kid showed up. I think Mark, he said he broke the record in 2001. So it was a year after that. He shows up to see Gerard, and the people seeing him share, you're in these apartments right above his physio practice. And we're like, hey, do you want to go get some food or something? And I think we went to McDonald's, and he's like, oh, they're telling me I shouldn't eat that stuff. I got to eat healthy. And look at me. And I'm just naturally skinny. I was like, oh, don't worry about that. You can eat whatever you want, man. Like, and I think kind of throughout his career, like that was sort of an issue. But Usain Bolt used to eat a lot of McDonald's too, so I'm not solely responsible. And
no, he was chicken nuggets, man. Yeah. Usain loved chicken nuggets. In press conferences at World Championships, he'd often mention.
Mark's got one more Olympic gold medal than me, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I think you have a different build, and you're lucky that you can eat anything you wish, and you don't really see the consequences on your body.
Yeah, when you're young, you don't realize that.
Okay, so back to ESC and College Station, because 200 meters also saw more glory for African sprinters. Makanakaishe Charamba clocked 20.13 to win the final, and that moves him to number 7 in the all-time short track list, while his compatriot Tarpiwa Makarau clocked 22.0 in the heats. Now, both Zimbabweans, you'll remember, were in the 200-meter Olympic final, a race which saw 4 Africans, including eventual winner Letsile Tebogo and Liberia's Joseph Van Boele, another one studying in the US, defy 3 Americans and a lone athlete from Dominican Republic. And another sprinter from Nigeria, a country, of course, which has a great sprinting tradition, excelled at the Big 12 conference in Lubbock. On 1st of March, 400-meter runner Ezekiel Nathaniel clocked 44.74, moving to number 8 in the all-time list. But of course, that is also an African record for the Nigerian. Now, there was also some really interesting results among the female sprinters, because that's also an area which had been relatively quiet, but that was shaken up over this weekend. Now, Jamisia Ford, we've already seen her. She confirmed her talent at SEC, very close to her seasonal best, which is 22:34. Now, that was, of course, a world under 20 record when she ran it last year. She equaled it earlier this season. In College Station, she ran 22.36. So her senior season got off to a really good start. Over the double distance, also at SEC, there were really outstanding results by 2 young ladies, Aliyah Butler and Isabella Whitaker. They really smashed up the world list, respectively clocking 49.78 and 49.90 to move to number 6 and number 7 in the all-time list. Now, Weldon, I know that you guys at letsrun.com are more into distance running than sprints, and honestly, I'm the same. Sorry, Ernest. Ernest is our director and a former world-class sprinter. But while confirmed sprinters wait for outdoor season, U.S. collegiate athletes are really shaking things up. And you explained already a little bit why this is happening.
Yeah, some of it, I think, well, I mean, Aliyah Butler, Isabella Whitaker, Americans, so you're seeing great American performances.
Yeah.
The Southeastern Conference, which is where I think every single one of those performances, I think it might have been, it is so good. And indoors, like you said, some of the American top sprinters, they skip the indoor season entirely, right? Like Usain Bolt never ran an indoor race, I don't think. I mean, worldwide, some people are like that. But if you're on a college scholarship, these coaches want to win. Indoors is a huge priority. I mean, I think you could take, and the quality is so good in the conference to begin with. You could take the 4 best 400-meter runners, I think, men or women from the Southeastern Conference, and they could race any country pretty much outside of America. I think they'd win the gold medal at the Olympics. I mean, the talent is just so amazing. So these marks every year, it's the sprint conference in America, but it's like the quality is so good. They should, I don't know, you could watch it in Europe like a Diamond League. I mean, that's how good the sprint action is at the SEC indoors and outdoors every year.
Yeah, it is. And in 10 days is the NCAA indoors, so that's going to rock.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on the sprint side, the SEC doesn't win everything. I feel like they almost do, but then throw in all the Big Ten's a really big conference now and good. So it's going to be exciting.
And talking about Big Ten, there was another great performance there by pole vaulter Amanda Mall, another young athlete who's in her first year as a senior. So she won the Big Ten, clearing 4 meters 91, which moves her to equal 8th in the all-time list. So here's another athlete who has been really excelling since she was very young, and she's confirming and continuing to grow her talent. So that's always something really cool. Now, back on the European side of the Atlantic, things had been really quiet, honestly, both at the national championships and in the last leg of the World Indoor Tour in Madrid on 28th of February. But as we're talking about pole vault, Paul Mondo was competing at the All-Star Perche World Indoor Tour Silver in the home of Renaud-Lavillenie, Clermont-Ferrand. And of course, anytime Mondo is lining up, there's some pretty good chances that the world record will fall. And that's what he did. So 6 meters 27 and his 11th career world record. Now, Mondo was outstanding, but the whole event was exceptional. Greece's Emanuel Karalis, who has been steadily progressing, further improved his national record to 6 meters 02, and 4 other athletes all cleared 5:91. So Australia's Curtis Marshall was third, ahead of 3 Frenchmen, Thibaut Collet in 4th, Baptiste Thierry in 5th, and Renaud-Lavillenie 6th, with his best result since 2021. So really, I mean, as 1500, pole vault and high jump are my favorite events. So this has been a thrilling time. So that was really the best ever pole vault competition. And most of these guys are meeting again on 13th of March in Mondo's home meet in Uppsala. And who knows, maybe record number 12. Oh, and by the way, Weldon, have you had a chance to listen to Mondo's first song titled Bop? It was released earlier on the day that he set the world record.
I need to listen to it. The internal review from Let's Run was not good. So I like everything Mondo does, and one unidentified member of the Let's Run team said, "Oh my gosh, it's not good, but it's fun, right? I can't judge it yet." So
I did listen to it, and I read the thread on on your site, and I must say I agree. I mean, for starters, I'm not much into pop. I much prefer rock music, but yeah, I found it a little bit bland. But it's great that he does something like that. Why not? He's not going to be as good in singing as he is in pole vaulting, but why not?
What did you think about the Ingebrigtsen anthem last year? I loved it.
Yeah. That was cool. I liked it as well. Mm-mm.
I made my daughter listen to it on the way to school a lot. So,
and what did she appreciate?
She likes the tune, She doesn't know Norwegian, but she's only 4.
Well, my son started his musical education with Police. Yours is starting it with Ingebrigtsen, so that's cool. Right. So after our quick review of the fortnight's top stadium events, let's have a look at, in general, at the whole outdoor season, sneak peek, and in particular, let's discuss Grand Slam track. So Weldon, first of all, in general, what is your take on GST?
I mean, first, it's almost here. It's a month from yesterday. It used to be a foreign concept, and now it's here, which is exciting. My second takeaway is that they've got the money. And if you got the money, that means you've got the athletes. We've said we need more big competitions. I've always said I could get athletes to race my backyard if I had enough money, and they've got enough money. And then the question marks to me are around 3 days and the format. Can you get no one else outside of the pre-classic can get a lot of fans for more than 1 day track meet in America. So for 3 days, are fans going to come out? Now, some of the venues are smaller, like the venue in Miami is very small, which is, I think, a good thing. You don't want empty seats. And then, to me, there's a lot of question marks around doubling. Michael Johnson loved doubling, but this whole track meet, this whole Grand Slam track is about doubling. And some athletes don't like the double. Like, I would like to see Kashane Thompson race the 100 in Jamaica, but I guess that's not a possibility because he doesn't double. And it's going to change how we watch the events, right? Like when the event ends, you'll know who won that individual event, but for the whole 2-race series where the money is tied around, it's going to be, it's going to be very different watching. I don't know if that's, I'm sort of skeptical of it. I don't think that's the way to do it, but they've got the money. Hopefully they have time if they want to get away from the doubling, or maybe I'm completely wrong and people love it. I love the fact the athletes are going to be head to head competing 2 days. The place really matters. So that part of it's good, but I'm not convinced that everything needs to be doubling because some athletes don't like the double, but that's sort of my initial takeaway.
No, that is interesting. And yeah, I mean, I guess you'll have to, to determine the overall winner is going to be a bit like in the combined events, in which, I don't know, maybe if they're going to provide information before the races that so-and-so has to, set such and such a time. But it's really complicated statistically to try and figure it out. But the head-to-head part is brilliant, and that's something that we do need.
Yeah, right now, I mean, once we see it a little bit different, but if we're saying like this is going to be hard to figure out, the beauty of track, it's so easy.
Yeah,
I want to see, Noah Lyles and Kashane Thompson race. I want to see Jakob and Kerr and Nagus and Hawker race. And on the 1500, actually, they've got all the guys except for Jakob. I mean, they don't have Jakob, but they've got those other ones. So that'll be good. Do I want to see them race in 800? Maybe once. I don't think I need to see it 4 times. But they've got some great athletes signed on board. They have Michael Johnson. They've got competent people behind this. They have backing. They've done some little stuff like getting a betting vendor, so there'll be more lines. I mean, but that's sort of the basics to me. I can bet on ping pong right now, and ping pong's not very popular. But it'll be interesting because I can't believe it's also very early in the year, right? I can't believe it's less than a month away.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the interesting things because, first one is Kingston, 4 to 6 June. There's no clash there. But the second one in Miami, 2 to 4 May, that clashes with the Diamond League in Shanghai. 30 May to 1st of June in Philadelphia. That's not as big a clash, but it does clash with the World Continental Tour meets in Nairobi and Bydgoszcz. And the last one in Los Angeles, 27 to 29 June. Again, it's not a big clash because the clash is with the European Team Championship. So it's really the Diamond League in Shanghai, which could be penalized. But let's see. Has confirmed both Xiamen and Shanghai. Let's see Letebogo, and we'll see what the other guys do. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is very early in the year, the meets, and there aren't a lot of big meets at that time of year. So
Yes, exactly.
I like that part. But then it conflicts with World Indoors. I mean, I think some athletes on the distance runners for sure, they're like, I'm doing, like Nagus. He's like, I'm doing Grand Slam track. Now, maybe this is a problem with World Athletics. You want your athletes to compete, you got to pay them more. Like at some point, it's a business for these athletes. We love the World Indoors, but in this rendition has been rescheduled a couple times, and there was no off year in 2022 for the athletes. So at some point, it might catch up to you, and people need a break. But a lot of there's in the Maya 1500 and stuff. Like Kerr ran World Indoors last year, Nagus, maybe Hawker as well. Some of these guys, you would probably see them at World Indoors if it wasn't for Grand Slam track, but they can make more money at Grand Slam track. Some of them are committed to the whole series. A lot of these guys are committed to the whole series or in down the road. So you can't criticize an athlete's individual choice. So the hope is, it's popular and brings more attention to the sport. And then the other, like we said, the American distance runners have raised their game. These other meets will have to raise their game. World Athletics will need to make World Indoors even more appealing for athletes, and everyone will benefit, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, it's true that on the post-Olympic year, World Indoors have always been a little bit weaker than other editions. But still, you look at results, you look at the names from the US that are saying they're going to Nanjing, and it's clear that a lot of them are declining selection, even Nikki Hills and who was it who had also doubled at the US nationals. They're not going to the World Indoors. And the elephant in the room clearly is Grand Slam track. So, yes, as you said, a lot of the top US athletes are signed up, not all of them, because it's interesting. For example, Noah Lyles not there, Rai Benjamin, and I'm a bit surprised because he'd said last year when he came to Monaco for the Diamond League that he doesn't really travel often across the ocean because living in California, he has to cross the whole country before he crosses the ocean, and he was suffering from jet lag, but he's not signed up either, and neither is Grant Holloway. But still, there's, as you said, distance runners, a lot of them are there, and it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, they're missing. I mean, in the U.S., Noah's not there. Sha'Carri Richardson's a huge, huge name. And it's not the full explanation. Sha'Carri Richardson's not there. Like Christian Coleman won the last World Indoors. He just didn't run he didn't run an indoor season this year. He's not in Grand Slam track either. So, I'm hoping for some of these one-off races. I assume some of these guys will do one of them. If you're Noah Lyles and you do a preseason meet in America for free, wouldn't you rather show up and take a couple $100,000? It's like the one in Miami is that's 3 hours from where he trains. It seems like a no-brainer to try to get some of those people there. There's so many U.S. sprinters training in Florida. I guess you'd have to double. Some of these other meets you wouldn't have to double, but hopefully they make it appealing for these people. No Grant Holloway, that sort of stuff. So they've got a lot of good names, but they don't have everybody. And you love the field events, Anna, and zero field events. So
Yeah. No, that's true. Now, and the European athletes who are taking part, they're mostly US based. Sirena Samba Mayela, Hudson Smith, the young French hurdler Clément Ducot. They're all US based, so it makes sense. But in a way, there are so many events, top events already in Europe that it's good to have some really top ones in the Americas. And I'm a bit not thrilled with the fact that it's only track, but given the format, it's understandable. What I don't understand, but that's a whole different discussion, and we're not going in there, is Ultimate Championships, where they have some events, not others, and they don't have the strongest field events. How can you have a so-called Ultimate Championship and not have the shot put, which had humongous depth, excellent results? The top 50 result last year in the shot put was better than anything that was done in the javelin or in other events. So that, I think, is really something that I didn't appreciate. But anyway, let's go back to competitions of the past fortnight and look at out-of-stadium events. Road races, some really interesting results there. First of all, excellent results by under 20 Ethiopian ladies at the half marathon in Meishan in China. 1:07:06 for Meaza Asefa, 1:07:26 for Beriha Gebreselassie, and 1:07:45 for Sewareg Haymanot, and they moved respectively to number 2, number 3, and number 5 in the all-time list. Then Salamon Barega's marathon debut. That was a success in Sevilla on 23 February. He won by over 1 minute to close in 2 hours 05:15. Then there was a close marathon race in Daegu, won by Tanzania's Gabriel Gerald Gai, who was runner-up in Boston in 2023. He won in 2:05:20, just 2 seconds faster than Ethiopia's Adisu Gobena. But then things really moved to the next level at the Tokyo Marathon on 2 March. That was the first of the world marathon majors, and it really shook up the season's list. Very good performances are recorded, in spite of the fact that the weather was unseasonably warm. So, winner Tadesse Takele, former steeplechaser, who had placed third in Berlin in 2023 on his first international marathon, made a break around 38 kilometer and won in 2 hours 03:23, ahead of compatriot Deresa Geleta, 2:03:51, and Kenya's Vincent Kipkemboi Ngetich, 2:04:00. Defending champion Benson Kipruto, also of Kenya, finished 7th, and Uganda's Joshua Cheptegei was 9th, 2:05:57 in his second career marathon. Now, Weldon, it seems Cheptegei needs a little more time to master the distance.
Yeah, I mean, we debated that this week on our podcast. Is he just not made for the marathon? I mean, his debut, I don't think he put as much preparation for that. But for this one, he said, "Look, I'm going to the roads. I'm done with the track." I would have expected a better performance. I mean, like, back in the day, like Gebre Selassie, his debut in Paris. It wasn't necessarily like world record times, but they were like very competitive. And this one, beforehand, there was debate whether he would go out with the leaders, and he didn't. I'm like, what are they paying him for? Why is he in the Tokyo Marathon then? But then also, so the pace wasn't like, oh, he went out too hard and died. At this point, he went out the pace he wanted to do and still died off of that. So I think he's only done, 3 half marathons in his life. I mean, his engine is so good. Like,
yeah,
I would assume he can kind of figure it out. But remember guys like Zersane Tedeschi, he was really good at half marathon, world record holder, and never really figured out the marathon. So it's not a guarantee. We at Let's Run, we want him to go back to the track this year for Tokyo. Like, come on. You can.
I'd love that.
By 2028, you can just get yourself ready for the Olympic marathon. Like, come on. So some question marks there for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, Helen Obiri also took a little while to really start to excel at the distance. So she's still not at the very, very, very top, but she's won major races. So maybe we'll see if Joshua follows along the same route, or if we send him back to track.
Yeah. I mean, some people are made for the marathon. Yeah. Like Paula Radcliffe ran Tokyo.
Exactly.
When she went to the marathon, way back to the Gerard Hartman, he was like, before she was viewed as like kind of an also-ran on the track or someone who just barely missed the major medals. And he's like, she has the talent to win a gold medal. And I'm like, what? He's like, the marathon. And he was she didn't win a gold medal in the marathon, but she destroyed the world records. But I think it shows people are meant to excel in certain events. You can't excel at everything. So yeah. I'm not ruling it out for Joshua.
Let's see. So women's race also saw an Ethiopian winner, Sutuma Sefa Kebede. Now she started really fast, and though her huge lead faded later in the race, she still took a clear victory to retain her Tokyo crown in 2 hours 16:31. Kenya's Winfrida Mora Mosetti clocked 2:16:56 to achieve her best ever result at any distance, just ahead of Ethiopia's Hawi Faisa, 2 hours 17 flat, who also made her first mark in the senior scene after she had taken World Cross silver in the under 20s in 2017. Now, Weldon, you mentioned Paula Radcliffe, and that was the other noteworthy fact from the Tokyo Marathon, is that former world record holder Paula Radcliffe competed, and she ran in 2 hours 57:26, aged 51, in her first marathon since 2015. And she plans to run the Boston Marathon next month. Now, I know you have huge appreciation for Paula. So what do you think of her return to marathon running?
I mean, I like seeing these old greats out there. My identical twin brother says he's going to break 3 hours in the marathon, and we're essentially Paula's age. And I'm like, this is bad news for you because, as I said, she's made for the marathon. I don't know if this was an all-out performance from her, but if she just ran 2:57, there's no room for error for you. And he's not even in shape. So it's good to just see her out there again and doing it. I mean, it's Father Time is undefeated, right? Like I remember her running 2:15s. I helped pace her to her 2:17. So she'll always have I'm going to be known forever for the guy who helped pace her to her first marathon. That's going to be my crowning accomplishment in the sport. So I like seeing Paula out there competing.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll see what she does in Boston next month.
Yeah, it's like, Kipchoge never figured out Boston. Paula never done hilly Athens and stuff, and that didn't work out for her too well. No. She was known for running fast on the flat courses. So I'm kind of curious, even at age 50, how Boston treats her, what she thinks of it.
Thanks, Weldon. So let's move now to another aspect of road events, and that's race walks. Now, of course, I know that this discipline is not very popular in the US, but it is in most other parts of the world. And in fact, it's one of the events which has the most diversity. You have, among the finalists, you regularly have 4 or 5 different continents. So it's really amazing. We're going to mention only 2 results here. We'll review all the other ones when we look at top marks section, including the first leg of the World Race Walking Tour in Taizang and the Russian Championships. But what we're going to look at here, and it's not because I'm Italian, but it's because it's a world record over 5,000 meters set by Italy's Francesco Fortunato at the National Championships on 22 February with 17:55.65. Now that breaks the official record of 18:07.08 by Russia's Mikhail Shennikov, which had stood since 1995. There were 3 later marks by Tunisia's Hatem Gola and 2 Russians, but they had not been ratified as records. Now, Fortunato, who had won the inaugural marathon mixed relay with Valentina Trapletti at the World Race Walking Championships last year, thus became the first man to dip under 18 minutes. And the other performance I'd like to highlight is, similar to what we just heard about Paula. It also came from the National Championships race walking, and it's Portugal's João Vieira, a world championship medalist in 2013 and 2019, who at age 49 continues to compete and win, taking yet another national title. I counted 44 of them, this one over 5,000 meters in 1935-18. So congratulations both to Paula and to João Vieira.
That's crazy.
I know, it's unreal. But I mean, the top guy here was, you remember, Spaniard Jesus Angel Garcia Bragado. He was 52. when he was, I think he was eighth at the World Championships in Doha in the last event in which they held the 50K. He was unreal, really cool guy. It's time now to go back to the global overview of our sport and check all the best results of the past fortnight, starting with the senior men. And we'll continue to add in brackets marks which are regular, which are listed in the respected statistical website Tila Stopaya or other very reliable sites, but which do not yet appear on World Athletics. So men's performance in the last fortnight were impressive in terms of elite marks and in depth. Let's take a look. So 200 meters, we mentioned the Zimbabweans, Makana Kaishe Charamba 2013. He had already run 2016 this year. His compatriot Tapiwa Makarawu 20.20. Behind them, Wanya McCoy of the Bahamas 20.25. 20.26 again for Makarau, and Jordan Reed 20.27 in the semis. Cameron Miller also 20.27 in Indianapolis, and that was in the heats, and in the final he ran 20.31. Charamba in the heats, he had already run in 20.32, and Jamarian Stubbs in Birmingham, Alabama ran in 20.36. 400 meters, we mentioned Ezekiel Nathaniel and his African record. There was also another great performance behind Nathaniel by Jaden Davis in Lubbock, 44.95. In College Station at the SEC, Ahmad Robinson clocked 45.07. And on 22 February in New York, Christopher Bailey, 44.15. Now, he is the world leader with 44.70 from February. 800 meters, we've discussed a lot about Josh Hoey and his great 143.24. Brandon Miller behind him, 144.26. And in third, Wes Ferguson, 144.92. 1500 meters, we have the split by Yared Nugusa and Yared over the mile with 3:47.22. Now, way behind him in that same race, very good marks also by Australia's Oliver Hoare, by US Luke Hauser, New Zealand's Samuel Tanner, Australia's Jack Amstey, and Canada's Kieran Lund. So very good race with a lot of international talent. 3,000 meters, as we saw, Graham Blanks in Boston. Behind him, Valentin Soka in an area record. And just a little bit further behind, 7:34.69 for the USA's Sam Gilman. 5,000 meters, we discussed a lot about Nico Young and his 12:51.56. Now, I always find it interesting that US publications, they mention the fact that he's number 2 in the US, and they don't mention the fact that he moves to number 5 in the all-time list. And that was a really good race. Behind him, South Africa's Adrian Wildschut, 12:55.02. Cole Hawker, as we saw on the 21st of February, 12:57.82. Cooper Tier right behind him, and Jack Rayner in third. Gulver Singh in finishing fifth. The last two were area records, as we saw. But also on the 2nd of March, Kai Robinson, 13:02.34. Before he was sidelined by illness. Norway's Narve Giljenordas on the 21st of February. He'd run 13:04.85, and Scott Beatty 13:04.99. Mohamed Abdullahi of Germany 13:06.38. So very, very good results there in the Magic Track in Boston. Grant Holloway, we mentioned, he equaled his world lead with 7:36. Behind him, 7:41 for Cameron Murray. Pole vault, Mondo Duplantis and his 11th world record with 6 meters 27. Emmanuel Caralis improves to 6 meters 02. And we mentioned 4 athletes clearing 5 meters 91, Curtis Marshall, Thibaut Collet, Baptiste Thierry, and Renaud Lavilloni. Shot put, this was the best mark from the Italian championships. Leo Fabri in the shot put, 21 meters 85. In the marathon, that was a really good race in Tokyo. Tadesse Takele, 2 hours 03:23. Derese Geleta, 03:51. Vincent Kipkemoin Getic, 2 hours 04 flat. Selemon Barega in his debut in Sevilla, 2:05:15. Gabriel Gerald Gay in Daegu, 2:05:20. And right behind him, Adisu Gobena. Then back to Tokyo with Titus Kipruto. Also very good marks in Osaka, 2:05:37 for Yihunling Adane of Ethiopia, 2:05:39 for Japan's Ryota Kondo. And then other very good marks in Tokyo from Mulugeta Asefa Uma, Jeffrey Toroitich, Benson Kipruto, who, as we said, came 7th in this race. 20 kilometers race walk at the first leg of the World Race Walking Tour Gold in Taizang. Very good marks over the 20 kilometers men. 1 hour 17:30 for Zhao Zhao Wang and 1 hour 17:33 for Li Hong Kui. Then also Haifeng Qian under 1 hour, just under 1 hour 18. And again, good marks, slightly above 1 hour 18 for Cheng Jie Li and Jun Zhang. And in the 35 kilometer, Vasily Mizinov of Russia clocked 2 hours 22:56 at the national championships and moves to number 4 of all time. So Mizinov was a silver medalist at 20K at the World Championships in 2019, competing as an authorized neutral athlete. Top men's performance is, of course, now Mondo Duplantis. His 6 meters 27 is worth 1,342 points on the scoring tables. So let's now check out the best women's marks of the last fortnight. So Jamesia Ford, we mentioned 22.36, but also interesting, India Maybury. She had already run in 22:41 on the 7th of February, and on the 1st of March in Lubbock, she ran in 22:42. Jamesia Ford, 22:44. The 22:36 was in the heats, and 22:44 was in the final at SEC. And India Maybury in the heats at in Lubbock, 22:46. 400 meters, we mentioned fantastic times by U.S. collegiate athletes Aliyah Butler and Isabella Whittaker, 49:78 and 49:90, moving to number 6 and number 7, respectively, in the all-time lists. In the mile, Heather McLean ran in 4 minutes 17:01, moving to number 4 in the all-time list. And in the split, I haven't got that on the screen, but she set an American record in passing over 1,500 meter with 3:59.60 and moves to number 11 in the short track all-time list. 5,000 meters also in Boston University track. Josette Andrews of the US clocked 14:44.8 and moves to number 11 in the all-time short track list. And behind her, Emily Mackay, 14:45.80, moves to number 13. Pole vault, Amanda Mall, as we saw, 4 meters 91, moves to number 8, equal of all time. Marathon, very good performances in Tokyo. Sutuma Asefa Kevede, 2 hours 16:31. Now for the marathon, I'm putting both, the scoring tables were changed for this event. So Sutume's mark is worth 1,246 points with the scoring tables which were published in January this year. But last year it would have been 1,269. So marathon marks are now earning a lot less points. But for this year, I'll include both sets of scores. So behind her, as we saw, Winfrida Mora Mosetti and Howie Feza, but also other very good performances. 2 more ladies under 2 hours 20, Magdalene Masai, 2:19:28, and Rosemarie Wanjiro, 2:19:57. Then Daisy Giza Mokonin, 2:20:07, Gotitom Gebreselassie, 2:20:25, and Degito Azimera, 2:20:26. More great performances at the Russian Race Walking Championships. Elvira Kazanova, over 20 kilometers, 1 hour 24:20, moves to number 3 in the all-time list. Over 35K, Margarita Nikiforova, 2 hours 39:54. That's better than the number 6 in the all-time list, but she already has the number 4. Behind her, Kristina Lyuboshkina, 2 hours 40:28, moves to number 8 in the all-time list. And in Aksu in Turkey, Italy's Eleonora Giorgi, 2 hours 41:54, was then, because that was on 22 February, 2 days before the Russian Championships, that was number 11 on the all-time list. Now, Eleonora's performance is especially remarkable because due to a rare snowstorm in Istanbul, which wreaked havoc in her travel plans, she had only slept 3 hours before the race. So, very good mark. Top women's performance of the season remains the 10K mark by Medina Eza, 29.25 in Castellón, which is worth 1,280 points. Now let's look at under 20 and under 18 athletes. There were also some great performances in those age categories over the last fortnight. So let's start with the under 20s. Now there's an outdoor mark in the 60-meter hurdle by Australia's Gary Card, 6.57, and that's equal 7th on the under 20 all-time list, but it's also the first, the number 1 of among the under 20s in the all-time list. That's because, of course, the 60 meters is much more often run indoor than outdoor. Indoors, we already mentioned Israel Ocon Sunday equaling the under 20 world record with 6.51. There's one mark which the World Athletics doesn't have. That's 6.54 for Ajani Dwyer during the US Championships on the 23rd of February, who would normally move to number 5, equal on the under 20 all-time list. Israel Ocon Sunday, as we'd mentioned, he'd already run 6:55 in the heats. And then we have, this is an outdoor mark from Bayanda Walaza of South Africa, 6.58. That was into 1.8 meters per second headwind. So that was pretty amazing. Short track mile, Owen Powell on the 21st of February with 3:56.66 moves to number 7 in the under 20 all-time list. And just behind him, Josiah Tostenson, 3:57.74 moves to equal number 9. 60-meter hurdles, Great Britain's Yolo Grant, 7.59 on 9 February in Sheffield, moves to equal number 10 on the under 20 all-time list, and he had already run 7.63 this season. 110 hurdles, outdoor mark by Daniel Clark in Kingston, 13:06, which would make him equal number 6 in the under 20 all-time list. In the back to the indoor, in the heptathlon with the under 20 implements, 2 very good results from the Dutch championships in Apeldoorn. Winner Luc Pelkman, 5,908 points, which moves him to number 8 in the under 20 all-time list. And behind him, 5,833 points for Elias Kappel, moves to number 15. Let's take a look now at the women. So we had seen some pretty amazing marks. This one is an old mark, which I didn't have last week. That's Dana Wilson, 7.16 on 14 February in Lynchburg, and that makes her equal number 12 in the under 20 all-time list. Over 200 meters, college. Now, there's a mark by the USA's Kelly Ufodiama, who is not on the World Athletics list. She had run 22:76 on 15 February, which would be number 9 on the all-time list. And on 1st of March, during the SEC, Anya Jackson clocked 22.87 and moves to number 11 on the under 20 all-time list. 400 meters. Now, we've already mentioned Choma Nwachukwu. She's actually an under 18 athlete. We'd mentioned her before in her age category, and on 28 February at the Big Ten in Indianapolis, she clocked 52.07, which not only is the number 2 in the all-time under 18 list, but it also moves her to number 11 on the under 20 all-time list. 3,000 meters. This was the only remarkable result from the Madrid leg of the World Indoor Tour. Birke Heilon, who of course had set the world under 20 record on 13 February in Liévin. She ran another great race, 8:38.45 on 28 February in Madrid. In the half marathon, we have already mentioned the 3 young Ethiopian ladies at the in Meishan, China, 1:07.06, 1:07.26, and 1:07.45, moving respectively to number 2, 3, and 5, equal in the under 20 all-time list. So let's move now to the under 18 athletes. 60 meters, 6.71 for Zamari Sanders of the US, who equals the best mark this season in the age category, which is also equal number 16 on the all-time list. 400 meters in Lubbock, Jordan Riggs of the US clocked 46:48, and that makes him the number 2 in the number 4 in the under 18 all-time list. 1500 meters, we had already mentioned Xavi Cabaniles of Spain. We had mentioned him in the past in the 3,000 meters, where he'd run an excellent result. And on 2 March, he clocked 3:48.75 over the 1500, which moves him to number 18 in the under 18 all-time list. Number 10 in the under 18 all-time list. 3,000 meters, USA's Joe Barrett on the 14th of February in Boston. Sometimes under 18 results are a bit slow to appear on the world list. He clocked 8:08.13 and moves to number 14 in the under 18 all-time list. Now, the hurdles has been very, very dynamic among the under 18s, both men and women. There was a match between France, Italy, and Portugal, and there were very, very good results. Maël Befassou-Lanurien, whom we've already mentioned, he'd already run 7:64 in Metz on the 1st of March. He ran 7.61 and moved to number 4 on the under 18 all-time list. This was in the heats in round 1. And then Italy's Filippo Vedana, who has the best mark of the season with 7:59. He equaled the mark of 7.61, so he's also now equal number 4. Filippo Vedana had clocked 7.65 in the first round. Let's move now to the under 18 women. So in the 60 meters, there's an athlete we've mentioned already several times, and that's Switzerland's Senia Buri. She had clocked 7.21 on 22 February, and she was just a tiny bit slower, clocking. So that was in the final 7.21, and in the heats, she had in the semi she had run 7.22. So very, very good results for Senia Buri, and she also had another mark of 7.23 on the 1st of March. Also very good mark in the 200 meter by the USA's Melanie Doggett. Now this was from back in 26 January. It's still not on the World Athletics list, but it's confirmed by several other respectable organizations. 23.33. Now she's only 13. She was born in 2011, and that would be number 9 on the under 18 all-time list. Now, when we spoke about under 20s, we already mentioned in the 400 meter Nigeria's Choma Nwachukwu. So 52.07, as we said, number 2 in the under 18 all-time list, good enough to be number 11 on the under 20 list. And she has already held a string of very good performances this year. Now her 52.07 was in the heats in Indianapolis at the Big Ten, and in the final she won in 52.44. 800 meters, another athlete we've mentioned several times is Britain's Shakira King. She had twice run 2:04.34 over the 800 meters, And on 23 February, she was just a little bit slower with 2:04.64, but still a very, very good mark. And hurdles, as I said, this is really a very dynamic event. Italy's Alessia Succo, who had set the world under 20 best on 9 February with 8:07. She came very close to that mark in the match against France and Portugal on March 1st in Metz, clocking 8:09 in the first round. Then in the final, she ran in 8.11. Now, Senya Buri, we mentioned her on the 60 flat, but she's also a very good hurdler. So she clocked 8.16 in Maglingen on the 1st of March and moves to number 5 in the under 18 all-time list. So very, very impressive results from athletes, both competing in the US. So it's time now for some cool athletics news. Laureus World Sports Awards have published their nominations for the 2024 season, and athletics is again well represented. Among the women candidates for Sportswoman of the Year, there are 3 ladies: Sifan Hassan, Faith Kipyegon, and Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. Mondo Duplantis is the lone representative from track and field for the Male Sportsman of the Year award, and both Julian Alfred and Letsila Tebogo are nominated for World Breakthrough of the Year. So congratulations to all of them, and winners will be announced in Madrid on the 21st of April. Now, Weldon, what do you think of these nominations?
I think they're good, but I think Beatrice Chebet should be on there. She was our World Athlete of the Year for the women. I mean, Sifan Hassan, Sydney, Faith. Faith's year was better last year than this year. They've had amazing performances, but Beatrice, I don't think anyone eclipsed her. I thought she had the best. It's the reason we made her the our Athlete of the Year. You know, that going under 29 at 10K, gold at 5 and 10, beating Faith in the 5. Like, she definitely should be a nominee. I don't know. I get that's a gross oversight to leave her off. I don't know how she gets left off being nominated. I see how you can make the argument, you know, someone else should beat her, but it's crazy she's not nominated. That's like a gross oversight. Like someone, can we complain somehow? I don't know. That's Laurie's thing's a European thing, and that's your area.
No, I definitely agree. No, it's not a European thing because the panel is sports journalists worldwide. But it's true that, you know, sometimes you have athletes who've already made a name for themselves who get nominated even on years where they haven't been exceptional. This happened in the past with Yelena Isinbayeva. It happened now with Faith, because I totally agree. I mean, last year she was the undisputed number 1 of athletics. She should have won the World Athletics Awards before they had this weird idea to split it up. But this year, she wasn't as exceptional. So, you know, and what I love about Beatrice is that she's so good on all surfaces. You know, she excels in cross country on the St. Sylvester road races at the end of the year. She ran a fantastic 5K. So she really is great. So I definitely agree. I agree with you that Beatrice should definitely at least be nominated, and I would have her as a contender. But as I say, she's not really well known yet outside the world of athletics, and journalists who vote are not athletic specialists. So I think this penalizes Beatrice Chebet. Now, what about, I don't remember, because last year when we were looking at athletes of the year, I'd also reported what other magazines, websites, organizations had. And I remember Beatrice. Who was your male athlete of the year? Because for me, it had to be Mondo. I mean, I love Letsile Tebogo. He's a really cool guy, and it was great to see him win. But I think what they did here of giving Julian Alfred and Letsile the breakthrough of the year is better than having Letsile as athlete of the year.
Yeah, we had Mondo as well.
Yeah.
And I think for a field eventer to win our award, you have to be really good. Yeah, Letsile, like, he made a name for himself at the Olympics, but we didn't think his season was that great. We thought Grant Holloway was our runner of the year. I think his season was a bit overlooked. I mean, Noah Lyles gets the attention because he wins the 100. Letsile does the 200 at the Olympics, has that amazing 4x4 leg. I mean, Jakob loses his main event, but the 5K is still really good. Wanyoni was amazing. But we thought Grant Holloway was totally overlooked.
But I think in defense of Letsile, you have to remember that he also had an excellent post-Paris season. And remember that his mom had passed away in early summer. So that definitely affected, because he'd started with some really good results also on the 400. And then we were all looking forward to what he would do. And then he kind of went quiet, but that's when his mom passed away. And for him to bounce back and to have such a fantastic second part of the season, I think was really good.
If we factor in that, I'm fine giving it to him for sure. And I just like all he went through last year. It really was amazing. But even like how he responds to, like, losing the 100 or whatever, like his attitude seems very good about just all of these things. He's a good ambassador for the sport, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. I like Letsile very, very much. Now, another person who's a really good ambassador for the sport and somebody I hugely appreciate is Yulimar Rojas, 4 times world champion in the triple jump. And the other great piece of news is that she's back after Achilles tendon surgery, and she'll be competing this Sunday in Salamanca in Spain, though she's entered for the long jump. Now, Rojas, she's a super talent. She's a great showwoman, and she's just a lovely human being. So I'm absolutely thrilled that she's back, and I really wish her all the best. So let's look now at upcoming events as we reach the end of our show. Starting tomorrow evening and until Sunday, 9 of March, European Athletics Indoor Championships take place in Apeldoorn in the Netherlands. Also on Sunday, the Nagoya Women's Marathon. Now, 14 and 15 of March, NCAA Indoor Championships Division 1. 15 and 16 March, European Throwing Cup in Nicosia in Cyprus. 16 March is also Seoul Marathon and the Asian Race Walking Championships in Nomi in Japan. Then 21 and 23 March, World Athletics Indoor Championships in Nanjing in China. 22nd of March, Race Walking Tour Gold event in Dudince in Slovakia. 29th of March, Maury Plant Meet in Melbourne. That's World Continental Tour Gold. And also the 10 in San Juan Capistrano. That's a Continental Tour Silver, but traditionally some very, very good performances over 10,000 meters. 30 March, Asia Marathon Championships in Jiaxing in China. 4 to 6 March, we've spoken quite a lot about it. First event of Grand Slam track in Kingston. 5th of April, Miramar Invitational in Florida, Continental Tour Silver. The following week on the 12th, Botswana Continental Tour Gold Meet in Gaborone. Same day, Grande Premio Internacional Rio Mayor in Portugal, Race Walking Tour. 12 and 13 of April, European Road Running Championships in Brussels, Leuven. 13 marathon, also Rotterdam Marathon. And the following Monday, 21st, Boston Marathon. 26 April, the first Diamond League meet of the year in Xiamen in China. 26 April, Penn Relays in Philadelphia. And 27 April, the London Marathon. So really exciting times ahead. So we're now at the end of our show, and it was great to have Weldon back with us on the program. Thank you all for watching, and see you in 2 weeks on Love Athletics to look together at the highlights, comments, and analysis of what's been happening in our sport over the past 7 days. And in the meantime, European Indoors start here in Apeldoorn tomorrow evening, and we'll be posting interviews every day from the mix zone. Thank you, Weldon.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Enjoy
It was
Euros.
great seeing you. Hope to see you this summer. Ciao.
For sure. Okay. Thanks.